Good morning. How's everyone doing? I know we can be a little lively than that. It's 10 a.m. How's everyone doing? Awesome. I thought I was at a political forum. All right. My name is Nathaniel Sawyer. I'm a Middlebury Institute International Studies graduate student studying international policy and development with a specialization in human trafficking, migration, and human security. I'm a former returned Peace Corps volunteer of Quito, Ecuador with my wife. We were youth and development specialists fighting human trafficking and child labor. Former law enforcement, 5 years as corrections officer, and I worked in the foster care system for 6 months. I'm going to introduce some very important people in this room. I believe that all you guys are important people, by the way. It's your vote that makes these guys win. Whoever, guy or woman, I'm going to be politically correct. All right. So I'm going to first introduce the organizations that are in the room. I'm going to start with the NAACP, if that's okay. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Yvonne Thomas, and I am the Communications Officer for the NAACP Monterey Bay branch. On behalf of our president, Mr. Josh Stewart, who is not able to join us here this morning, we want to thank you all for coming out on this early Saturday morning. I know how difficult it is, it's cold outside today. So thank you all for joining us here today. The mission of the NAACP is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons and to eliminate race-based discrimination. Although we do not endorse any particular candidate, we do strongly urge all citizens to go to the polls this year and exercise your right to vote. We are living in what can be best described as a somewhat volatile period in this nation's history. Issues of discrimination and racism have never been permanently laid to rest, but they did lie dormant for a while, which compelled us to be comfortable and a bit too complacent. And now, this current administration has unearthed and empowered a segment of our population that, for all intents and purposes, should have remained buried. When Donald Trump won the election, it was as if someone sprayed a can of political Raid and all the racist came coming out of the baseballs. It's not necessarily a bad thing because now we can clearly see who they are. And when people show you who they are, we must believe them. Our task now is to stop them. And the biggest unanswered question is how to do that. Many people look to the NAACP for guidance, and that's one of the main reasons that we exist. But we can't do it alone. Our challenge to you, get to know the candidates running for office at the local, state, and national levels, find out precisely what they stand for so that you can make an informed decision. And when you cast your vote, we have one last suggestion for you, is to consider joining us at the NAACP and becoming a member. Let's all work together to exterminate racism and hatred for good. Thank you.
This is Dr. Linda Bino. She is the president of the Democratic Club of the Monterey Peninsula. She has been a great mentor for me when I first came here almost a year ago to this beautiful county. She introduced me into her club as vice president of communications. Along with the NAACP has also put me as a political chair. I'm going to let her take the reign.
Okay. I am Dr. Bino, and I am the president of the Democratic Club of the Monterey Peninsula. I want to thank the NAACP for co-sponsoring this event, and Nate for all the work that he's done. And I don't know if you know, but he's also in a master's program, so he's doing double duty. He's really an outstanding young man. The Democratic Club of the Monterey Peninsula, our mission actually is number one, to elect Democrats. That's our number one focus. And in order to do that, we want to educate our members about the process, the democratic process, and we also want to give them ways to participate, like precinct walking, registered voting, phone banking, all of those things that are necessary to get our Democratic candidates elected. We are the oldest club on the peninsula, or in the county actually, and we're actually one of the oldest clubs west of the Mississippi. We have several board members today. Some of them I weren't I wasn't sure was going to actually be here, but our Vice President of Communication is Nate. Our Vice President of Events, is he here? Adam Prentice, he's not here. We also have our treasurer, who is Justin Moser. He's here. He's actually going to be helping you get registered to vote today. If you're 17 or older and have never registered, that's that's where you should go to get registered. Also, if you have a no-party preference, I don't know if you're aware, but you need to register to vote or fill out a form so that you can get a ballot, or else you will not be able to vote in the primaries. Also, if you changed your name recently or changed your address recently, you need to re-register to vote. We have new member applications in the back as well. We're always trying to get new members so that we can stay relevant and so that we can grow. One of the things that our mission is for now. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, we do have other members. We do have our historian members here, which are very useful because we have a lot of history. They keep us on board and they keep us knowledgeable about what's going on. We have Dick and Barbara Stiles. And who am I? And we have our secretary, who is Tom Diggins. There it is. I was looking for you, Tom. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Please feel free to talk to any of us about our club, about how you might be able to participate, because it's through participation, it's through all the hard work, the legwork, the telephone calls, the sending letters, that really makes a difference for our ability to get Democratic people elected. Okay? Thank you very much.
All right, I know we have some very important people in the room, and I want them to be acknowledged. If we have any mayors in the room, I would like them to please sit in the front so they can get all the glory and action in the front. I see Mayor Oglesby back there. Everyone give them a round of applause. Do we have any other people in the room that are running for something or a part of an organization? If you are that person, could you please stand up so we can acknowledge you? Thank you. I want to thank all you guys for your service and what you're doing in the communities. Judge?
I just want to say I'm elected to the District 2 part of the Board of Directors for the Water Management District. And I include part of Seaside in my district. So that's one reason why I'm here, also why I want to meet people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for being here. Great man. Many great individuals. All right, I want those people. Let's get down to business. You know, we all got things to do, right? All right. There's going to be a mic right here, and I believe there's a mic on over there. Oh, this is the president of the Monterey Peninsula Ministerial Seaside Alliance. Pastor Murray, please take it over on this one.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
We want to welcome you, first of all, to the Ocean View Baptist Church, who is just the host venue. So I want to get that correct. And then to Mayor Oglesby and to Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco. There is another event happening at 11 o'clock to where they will have to go for a groundbreaking ceremony up at Del Monte Manor. So that will be happening at 11 o'clock, and so I do want to recognize them and realize that they have to be there. But we're thankful to all of you for being here on today, and to our candidates for the 4th District Supervisor position. We want to welcome you also. And then I want to say, on behalf of a long-term community activist and voter registration person in her absence, Ms. Helen Rucker, who would be here if it wasn't for her recovery and her rehabilitation. I want to put a shout out to her for all that she has done and continues to do. And to Ms. Ruthie Watts, if you can convey that message to her that we want to recognize her. And to all of you, we're all important, and this is an important race. And I want to say on behalf of the Monterey Peninsula Seaside Ministerial Alliance, as a co-sponsor, in memory of Dr. H.H. Luss Sr., who was the founder of the Monterey Peninsula Seaside Ministerial Alliance, we are involved on the issue of politics, just always co-hosting a debate with the local politicians of Seaside, with the Women League of Voters. That's always taking place at Oldemire Center, but we were not organized to co-host that this year. But since this came up, we thought it to be right to ask the NAACP and the Democratic Club if we could participate in this event. And I want to say to Brother Nathan, we thank you for all you do. And we thank all of you community leaders and residents and county residents that are here today. It's an important vote, and we don't endorse, as a church, any candidate. But as the Ministerial Alliance, we do endorse. We have that option. But this is not an endorsement campaign. Hello, somebody. So I just want to be clear while I'm taking my time to say that the church is just hosting this event. The church is not endorsing neither candidate, but we are allowing the candidates to have their information on the table, that afterwards you can come and greet them, talk to them, and pick up their literature. We are allowing that to happen in the sanctuary, but the church itself is not endorsing or promoting this event. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Murray. All right, before we introduce the candidates, I want to say to Helen Rucker that I personally stand on the backs of people like her. I am an activist and humanitarian. This is why I do this. I don't have anybody pulling the strings. It's just who I am. It's in my blood. So I look forward to meeting her and talking to her and picking her brain. All right, we're going to start from left to right. I would love the candidates to introduce yourselves and just give a little background about you.
How much time do we have?
Honestly, I'm going to say a minute, but I'm hoping that you guys can do it in a minute. If not, I might have to cut it, but I'm going to trust you on this one. To just introduce yourself and give a short background on yourself.
Steve McShane. I'm a city councilman in the city of Salinas. I served that for 10 years, served on a school board, father of 2 kids. I own a couple of businesses, McShane's Landscape Supply and a liquid organic fertilizer company in Gonzales that uses food waste and fish waste as our raw product. I see the potential in the region. I see the potential in people. Every single one of our residents count, and every single one of our residents represents something that I can learn more about this region and what ultimately this region can become. So I'm very, very excited to be here. I want to thank everyone else running. This is a tremendous task. I think it's been over a year that I've been running. And it's not because of someone else. It's not because of some almighty dollar or some hands behind a curtain. And I'd say the same thing about everyone up here. We all have ideas and we care. So look forward to this discussion.
Good morning, my name is Alex Miller. I am a proud Seaside resident. I currently serve on the Neighborhood Improvement Commission as a volunteer. I spend a lot of time focused in on Seaside, how we can make our community a better place and a safer place for our residents. I am in my last semester in law school, so I'm excited about my career in law and working in governmental law. And this position is perfect for me because we need somebody who understands the law. I am raising my 3-year-old daughter, Olivia. I'm a proud father. I am a happily married person with a child, and today you guys will get to learn a little bit more about me and my vision for District 4 and how we can move together.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Chambliss, born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Right now I have a little speech impediment. I have a partial, so if I stutter a little, that's what it is. Just forgive me. Born and raised in Los Angeles, California, attended public schools there, moved to the Monterey Peninsula a week after I got married in 1977. Been here on the peninsula for 5 years, in Seaside proper as a homeowner for 37 years. So I do know something about the city of Seaside, and I am familiar with the 4th District. I am a former school board member, served on the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District from 1991 to 2001, served as president for 7 years. That was during the time when the base closed, border was closed. And so we had a lot of issues connected with that base closure. And at the helm at that time, I was able to help navigate the district through that tumultuous time.
It's in 1 minute. Sorry, Winnie. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Can I just say I'm married? I have 6 children, been married 42 years. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Askew. I am so grateful to be here and have such a great audience today. I'm running for the Monterey County Board of Supervisors because I know how significant this seat is. I know how significant the services that the county provides are to our residents, especially in District 4. My background, I'm 4th generation Monterey Peninsula. The military brought my family here. I was insanely lucky to be able to move back to the community. I've been in a home in Marina for almost 20 years, where I'm now raising my 5th generation Monterey Peninsula son. I serve also on the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District Board of Education, where we've successfully passed bond measures thanks to you, and we're doing aggressively improving our school campuses at Seaside High School. We just cut the ribbon on our gym at Marine High School, and I've been working for the county, for the incumbent supervisor for the past decade, so I have deep experience and knowledge about how the county works
1 minute.
and what the county needs.
Sorry about that. I'm going to be strict, guys. All right, now the question is, why do you believe you are the best candidate for Monterey County? If you want to emphasize on that more, or do you want to move to the next question and feel like you have already answered? Start with Steve.
You know, human beings' life is made or destroyed based on where they came from, what they've been through, the hardship that they've experienced. I think about my own life. I've been divorced. I failed at business. 2nd grade, I couldn't read. I think about what opportunities I've been allowed that have helped me to overcome those challenges. A good education, a strong family, my faith. Not everybody has those opportunities. Not everybody has those advantages. And I realize that while some do and some don't, the spirit of someone to overcome challenges is possible. And I think about this office and what motivates me, and I think everybody out there would want to know what's motivating each of us to do this. I love people. I see the potential in people. It's a fault. I'm always one of those people that sees the opportunity, not the threat. I connect dots. I'm a networker. I say to myself, whoa, these skills paired with that individual, paired with that problem, and voila. When I think of the 4th District, and I've spent a year
1 minute.
walking, hosting coffees, I think this is my 21st coffee, and it'll be in Marina. I had one.
All right, Steve, 1 minute. It's over
1 minute left, or?
No, it's over 1 minute. When I say 1 minute, it's 1 minute.
All right. If there's a 20-second warning, that'd be great. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
She's my stopwatch. She'll let me know.
Now I know I have to talk fast. The difference between me and my opponents is I have a vision. I am the best candidate for this position because I have a vision for what we can achieve here in Seaside and Marina. I talk about this, we could create a multicultural center on the hill. We can help the homeless on 4 North by doing tiny homes. I have a vision for those. My opponents, all you'll hear is how to fix some of the problems. Yes, we need to fix some of the problems, but we need a leader with a strong vision, and that's me. I'm a political outsider. I haven't gotten the same money that my opponents have gotten from these big PACs in Carmel and Monterey and in Ag, and those people are given that money because they expect something in return. And when the people are elected here in Monterey County who have been bought,
20 seconds.
Then they make decisions based upon that. And that's not what my candidacy is about. My candidacy is about working for the people and working for you. And lastly, I'm a people person. I relate to people, And I'm going to work together with all of you to make Seaside and Marina
Time.
the greatest place possible.
I know I have to talk fast too, and I'm not a fast talker. I'm running because, honestly, and someone asked me this at the beginning of this gathering, I'm running because I believe I was called to run. And so in that calling, I believe I'm answering to a higher authority. I'm answering to the people who will elect me, but answering to a higher authority makes me more accountable and more responsible to do those things that are right for the people. And I am a people person. And my vision, and I do have one, is to bring people together, to bring the cities together, to bring
20 seconds.
governments together, to bring people together, to give them a voice, because it's certain that some people in District 4 believe that their voices have not been heard, and I'm here to be their mouthpiece, to speak for them, and to work for them. For you.
So for the past 10 years, I've been working in the office of the county supervisor. I've been working with the county. The county has a $1.5 billion budget with 26 different departments, with dozens of state and federal mandates that have to be followed. So we can either do a good job of doing those core services to deliver them for people, or we can do a poor job. I'm there to make sure that we're doing the best job that we possibly can to serve the residents with these programs and services that the state and federal government tell us we have to serve. So I have deep, deep experience working with the county. I have the relationships with the other elected officials in District 4 that allow us to work together. If you look at endorsements, I have support and deep trusting relationships with those individuals so that we can move things forward. And then I just ask you to look at my track record on the school board and how I have made decisions and how I have communicated with the public. Thank you.
All right, candidates, what will be your first policy implementation as supervisor?
The very first thing I'm going to do is get that office off of Fort Ord. That office on 2nd Street is not accessible to the people. It's out of the way, and when I go knock on the door, it's locked. That's not going to be the case with me. I'm going to move the office, I'm going to move it downtown Seaside, and we're going to have office hours. You can walk in and talk to your supervisor. Then what are we going to do with that property on Fort Ord? That's where I propose we do something with the homeless. We can have tiny homes out there. There's a lot of land out there next to the supervisor's office, so one of the very first things I would do is to move the office. The second thing I would do is get together a commission to explore the Seaside Regional Multicultural Center. You can do a cultural center with an amphitheater, 2,000-person stadium that overlooks the bay. That brings people to Seaside. We need people to stop driving through Seaside to go to Monterey. We need them to stop here, spend their money here in our restaurants and our bars, and so we can have more tax and we can create more revenue for our streets and for our people.
Thank you. This was an interesting question for me, and I thought about it very deeply. And what I came up with is the fact that since I am a people person, the first policy implementation that I would do should be connected with people. And the people most vulnerable at this time, I believe, are the homeless. So I would do something to help the homeless immediately. We sit in our homes with heat and light and gas, and we're comfortable, and we don't think about people who are outdoors who have no other options. And so that would be my first policy implementation.
I love the question, and I just want to remind folks that as one supervisor out of 5, you come in January, we're in the middle of budget season, so I think there's 2 things that I would focus on. One of them would be preserving and arguing and fighting to maintain the funding that we have coming from the county to District 4. We receive county funding for a number of programs and services, contracts, so ensuring that those continue into the future, I think is right there, it's happening at that point in time. In parallel with that, housing is at the top of my priority list. I'm working already very closely with the Monterey Peninsula Housing Collaborative, which is a group of electeds from each of the peninsula cities. We're advancing the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership housing policy recommendations, and There's some housing work that's happening on East Garrison to additionally get our additional low-income housing built. We're looking for funding for that, as well as getting the finalized funding for the Light Fighter Village in Marina for veterans housing.
Nate, to interrupt, because we need to do this much better. Whoever doing the time needs to sit in front of the candidate.
All right, well, you can flash the paper, he says.
Flash some paper that the candidates can see, and by that know that their 20 seconds is now, because when you interject, you interrupt.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not saying that critical, I'm just trying to make it more smooth. Okay, thank you.
So I'm just going to repeat a couple of things that have already been said. There are still issues associated with the base closure 25 years ago. Some people in District 4 feel their voices have not been heard. I agree with both of those statements that have come out of my colleagues. And the very first thing I would do, like Alex, is move the District 4 office to downtown Seaside. We need to be accessible. As an elected official, we should be so accessible that there is never an excuse. I definitely believe that the strength of our county is based on the strength and the numbers that participate in the county. And we do that by extending our hand and inviting rather than expecting. I'd also say that I would conduct an inventory of every housing project that the county could or is influencing and find out what the heck is going on. I know of a great project, Mr. Glover, and I know there's plenty of excuses. It's a state or a federal agency in the way. Well, doggone it, as an elected official, I'm going to make it my priority to do everything I can to help move it along.
Rachel here is going to hold up the 20-second sign when she looks at Yvonne. Yvonne's going to tell me when time, and I'm just going to say time if that works for you.
You can just put the sign up again.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
We're trained.
How do you plan on bringing jobs back to Monterey County so the young generation can help grow our county? Anyone can start.
Okay, I think it's a multi-part question because in order to bring jobs back, there needs to be water. Without water, nothing is going to happen. Without water, you can't develop property. You can't build homes. There won't be affordable housing. So water, affordable housing are foundational to bringing jobs in. We're not going to go to Silicon Valley and get Google or whoever to come here if there's no water to sustain their businesses. So water is elemental, fundamental.
We met with the Chamber of Commerce before the holidays, and then again had a follow-up interview yesterday. And I was very clear. Business is fundamental to what the businesses that we have on the peninsula, our hospitality, our agriculture, our military communities. We need to continue to find ways to work in partnership with them, to hear what their needs are, and to be responsive. That was 20 seconds, dude. Finding solutions, long-term solutions to our water issues is something I am committed to doing. I think that continuing to work with our chamber partners, with our business partners, and I'm going to really emphasize that I think small business is a place that we need to do more with. The county had an economic development director in the past. We've had economic development committees. The role of the county in economic development and the role of the county in creating jobs is nuanced. There isn't a direct correlation there. I've got 5 more seconds. I've got a timer here, dude. So I think that there's a lot more that can be done, but soundbite is not a soundbite answer.
We're going to do this a little more organized. Yvonne, Rachel, could you two sit beside each other? And you guys can coordinate. I'm going to ask the questions if that's okay with you. So you guys can coordinate or over there sit with Rachel. When Rachel holds up the 20-second sign, it's 20 seconds. When Yvonne raises her hand, that's it. I don't want to be involved with the timing situation, okay? All right, thank you.
I'd like to encourage 2 minutes.
Yes, I would agree.
You guys want 2 minutes?
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. All right, 2 minutes. The people rule. All right, the next question is, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Under the minute.
Under the minute rule.
Okay. I'm a small business owner and an entrepreneur. I've started 5 businesses and I've failed at 3. That's what happens. And I'll tell you, we can do a lot more to instigate and assist in small business creation. I think CSUMB is a tremendous opportunity. I am personally engaged in bringing an engineering college to the school. I've been involved in bringing ag tech to the region, and that's not just a valley thing. Water conservation technologies doesn't just apply to, say, the valley, it applies just as much to the peninsula and other opportunity that comes. More than 50% of all revolutionary inventions in the last 100 years have been created by people under 25 years old. Look it up. So embracing youth and at the school level, the community level, and at the college level, incentivizing job creation through entrepreneurship is something that's in my bones and I'd be committed to. Not to mention bringing back economic development to the county of Monterey and looking hard at some of the departments that influence business and job creation.
During the several meetings that I met with Helen Rucker, one of the things that stood out to me was she said, Seaside needs to know the way to San Jose. And I firmly believe that. In Santa Cruz, we're putting up satellite offices for the tech industry. Those are good paying jobs. Those are $150,000 a year jobs in the tech industry. We are so close to the Bay Area, we're 1 hour away. We need to have fiber optics. We need to bring higher speed internet to our region so we can attract some of these tech industries to have satellite offices here that can employ some people. I'm a CSUMB graduate. When I went to school there was 2,000 students. Now there's 7,000 students, and the chancellor's saying there's going to be 20,000 students. We need to use CSUMB to our advantage, have students create small businesses, and we need to have CSUMB get some jobs for those students after graduation so they stay here and we can create businesses and improve our economy.
Thank you. I'm so proud of my timekeepers, by the way, y'all.
Thank you.
I don't want Miss Wendy Rue to school to get on to me next time. I love her, though. I love
I've got a
her.
timer right here. I'm trying to
All right. Do you believe we have a gentrification problem throughout Monterey County? If so, how do you plan to tackle this issue?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Do you believe we have a gentrification problem in this county? And if so, how do you plan to tackle this issue?
2 minutes?
Okay, so a gentrification problem. So that would Mike, yeah, thank you. Gentrification problem. So we are building new housing in District 4. East Garrison, we're building housing at Sea Haven. The city of Marina, I should say, is building housing at Sea Haven and the Dunes. At the school district, we projected how many students, new students, would come as a result of that housing. And those students have not materialized. The idea was that those houses would be for people like me and my mom who had purchased many, many years ago to sort of move up and then open up starter homes for others. That's not how it's played out. Right. So the need for us as we look at how we develop and how we continue to develop, I'm going to say it's not so much the kind of housing that we're developing, it's we just develop more housing. It is the kind of housing that we're developing. It matters the types of housing, and you can look at the regional housing needs assessment numbers to help guide us for how we do that in a way that it doesn't contribute to pushing people out of our peninsula. I'm 4th generation. I want my 5th generation son to be able to live here if he chooses.
We very much have a growing gentrification issue here in Seaside and in District 4. It's a challenge. There are more people leaving than coming. I think we all have family members or friends that have left the region, and it's largely tied to work. They don't have jobs or workforce opportunities, and we failed in District 4. We failed in the region, and we could do more. To the point made by Mr. Miller, there is opportunity to the north, incredible opportunity. Something like 1/4 of all venture capital dollars in the world are invested within 100, 150 miles of here. The key is to identify what values we have in our region. I'm ready to have that conversation. What are the values that we have here for the types of jobs that we'd like to attract? And then we go after it. We go after it with our local chambers of commerces. We go after it with representatives of the community and say, we'd like to have you. There is opportunity in downtown Seaside. And I know as the mayor and certainly as Mr. Pacheco and others have shown leadership to open up those opportunities, we need to pair the space and the opportunity with the right possible employer that could address that. We can't put up a Seaside is closed, the peninsula is closed sign. I mean, And that just doesn't exist in this form of government and in this society. What we can do is incentivize the right jobs and the right opportunity for local folks to earn the wages to be able to occupy homes. And I can't help but expand on, we need to diversify our housing stock. I live in a 1,400 square foot home with 3 bedrooms. The houses they're building in East Garrison are 3,000 square foot homes for $700 or $800 or more $1,000. So we need to look at different ways of housing folks. For one, farm worker housing on farm. For two, is that time or is it 20 seconds? Okay, I can't wait to have that discussion as well, please.
Again, we're going to do the 2-minute time rule now, so if Rachel pulls up her paper as 1 minute, I'm believing, from you guys, or how are you doing it? Okay, awesome. So there you go. Keep it continuing.
When I think of gentrification, I think of Chinatown in Salinas, and I think of those people are dying for services there. And what's happening is they're building large apartment complexes behind there. That is drawing out the homeless people, and they have nowhere to go. So yes, there's a gentrification problem in Salinas and here in Seaside. When I first moved to Seaside off of San Pablo, right across my apartment was the San Pablo Estates. And they have moderate homes, very small, but the deed is capped at a certain amount of money, meaning the house cannot be resold for more than $500,000. We need to explore creative solutions to lower the cost of housing so that people don't have to move out of our area. One thing we can do is cap the amount that the house can be sold for, low income. Also, when there's housing developments, we don't need the low-income housing to be the last phase. We need the low-income housing to be the first phase. And as supervisor, you can advocate for that. You can work towards that. And we need to have some affordability in our cities so that our people will stay here and not have to move.
I believe it was this past Thursday, that I read an article in the LA Times. It was talking about Senate Bill 50. And what that bill does is it changes the zoning for developments. And I believe that it changes single dwelling residences to duplex, triplex, quadruplex. So what we're talking about then is zoning. We need more density in the housing that we do have. And one of the problems associated with that Senate bill is that residents are believing that it will cause those who are in the existing structures now to be forced to sell their homes for the profit and thereby change the character of the neighborhood, which forces those people who are in out. And say on Broadway, where there's a plan or a proposal to build not hotels, but residences above on different levels on Broadway. So what the thought is that there'll be luxury apartments for people that low-income people can't even get into. So we want to avoid that, but we do need to have more dense residential areas where there will be more availability for low-cost housing, for moderate housing. And then also work with developers to change the formulas for the amount of low, moderate income people who get into the units that they build. And I hope I'm making sense. I understand it, but I don't know if I'm transmitting it well. But we need a different type of dense formula for housing.
All right, everyone, okay. This is a little backstory. The Monterey County ethnicity data is 257 Hispanic/Latino residents, that's 58.8% of our county. 130 white residents, that's 29.8%. 23.7 Asian residents, that's 5.42%. 13.3 mixed race, 3.5, and 10.6 African American, that's 2.41%. 1.68 Native Hawaiian. This comes from the Monterey County data census. And my question is to you candidates, do you believe you have been meeting with different groups within Monterey County? If not, why? If yes,
Have you been meeting?
Yes, have you been meeting with all the minority and ethnicity communities within Monterey County? Because I've traveled all over the world and here in the United States, and California is a very diverse melting pot example of our great country. And my question to you is, have you been meeting with every single individual that is black or brown, Filipino, Asian in our county? Anyone can go, who wants to go first?
Yeah, let's keep doing this.
Order, please.
Okay. I love people. I love cultures. I love differences. I celebrate differences. And one thing I've learned as a council member for 10 plus years is you've got to go to where people are. You can't expect them to come to you. You can't expect to lead with that sort of attitude. And in my lifetime, I've hosted a number of community meetings. And I'll say on the campaign trail, I recently had a cafecito right on Broadway with Antonio Morales, and we had folks there where it was an English and Spanish engagement. The Phil-Ann Club in Marina, and not to mention the hardworking Filipino communities on the peninsula, not just in Monterey, but in Salinas. I've been to more events and had more interesting food, and I love food. The idea is that we embrace cultures and make people feel welcome, and that's one thing I've definitely learned in Salinas and as a business owner. Hablo español, y trabajé en Centro Mexico y Chile. I worked in South America and in Central Mexico, and I've learned that culture is oftentimes a stronger connection than even language, and that's celebrated oftentimes in around food. If there's one inhibition to government, it's fewer and fewer people can speak the language of public comment and agendas and time constraints and forums like this. Recently someone suggested, you know what, Steve, quit having these coffees and these visits and stuffing people's rooms talking about the same issues. Go out to the street. And I've discovered that some of the best engagements I have had taken place at festivals, whether I had an outreach booth in Chinatown not too long ago, I think year before last, or at a food and wine festival, or just by organizing events like the electric vehicle test drive event I organized in Seaside, or the recent Clean Energy Summit with Congressman Panetta. Take government to the people and embrace every last culture and every last orientation, and government will be stronger.
The most negative thing that I've heard about my cultural center, the Seaside Multicultural Center, is, hey, that was my idea. And I say, yes, that's your idea. Well, join on. Let's get this done together. Let's celebrate the numbers that Nate just gave us. Let's celebrate the people. Let's have a place for them to go to do their celebrations. The Seaside Multicultural Center. We can have a 2,000-person amphitheater that overlooks the beautiful bay. We can have cultural events with flowers surrounding the facility, places where we embrace our cultures. As I go up San Pablo, where I live, is Catino Park. And Catino Park, for a long time, was a baseball field. And through my efforts and through my work on the Neighborhood Improvement Commission, we got that to be a soccer field, because there was no place for the Hispanics to play soccer. And that's one of the only soccer fields in Seaside. We need more of those. We need more soccer fields, more sports centers, more places for our youth to thrive, especially our diverse youth. There's a basketball court. There's a basketball court very close to here on Sonoma and Contra Costa. We got the city to buy that from the school district. The school district has sat on that property for 20 years. Now we're going to rehab that basketball court and give our community a place to play basketball. The question was, have you been having meetings with groups? Yes, I have. I've met with all of the groups. I've gone to the Phil-Am Club in Marina and spoken in front of them. I've gone to the Hispanics, spoken in front of them. I've gone to the different groups, and that's how I'm going to win this election.
Thank you. I have to admit that I am just now beginning to visit the different groups. I met with the Latino group. I have attempted to meet with LULAC unsuccessfully. I have not even formally visited NAACP. I've been to a meeting, but I have not met with NAACP. So that's something that I know that I need to do. I'm not sitting here claiming to be perfect, that I've done everything that I should have done. I know what I need to do, and I'm in the process of doing it. So that's my response. That's my honest response, and I'm not going to try to BS you to make you feel like I'm doing something that I haven't done yet. That's it.
All right, so meeting with community groups is fundamental to what we do in the supervisor's office. We're out in the community. I think one of the reasons why the door is locked sometimes is we have had threats to that office from dangerous people in the community, and our office manager is there alone. So we're locked is a safety measure as we do appointments. But having said that, I'm going to change the question slightly and just talk about policy. So I think meeting with the community is absolutely necessary. We also have really good data about what the needs are. Impact Monterey County has been out in the community doing assessments and identifying the needs. MPUSD has 40 languages spoken in our schools. My son's TK class had 10 languages spoken in his TK classroom. So we have an incredibly diverse community, and we have an incredible amount of data that's available to us to tell us what those needs are. So as a result of that, we've taken Natividad Medical Center and invested in indigenous interpretation. We have hundreds of languages with interpreters on standby available to interpret for patients at Natividad Medical Center. We've taken policy action through the Civil Rights Office with the County of Monterey to make languages, to make information that the county provides available in languages across the board. We have contracts with language lines so that if anyone needs access to a language that we don't have available to us, that it is available. Those are policy decisions that you get to make in the Board of Supervisors office based on the data that's available to us about what the needs of the community are. And I do pride myself in doing the research to identify what that information is. I can't meet with everybody in this county. There are 41,000 voters in our district, and there's another 40,000 residents who aren't registered to vote. It is impossible for me to talk to every single one of them. I'm going to try. But what I rely on instead is the data that's available to us to make those policy decisions that benefit the communities that have needs.
Thank you, candidates. This next question is based off the stem from the other question. There's 257K Hispanic residents, that's 58.8%. As a policy specialist, I have to do this data so I can come to leaders like you and talk about how you can possibly solve the problem with the help of the people. And my question is, do you believe in sanctuary cities, counties, and states? If so, how do you plan to help the undocumented immigrants who live within our county? If you do not believe in sanctuary cities, counties, or states, why? And for the audience, sanctuary cities, or when undocumented asylum seekers or refugees are coming into a state, they are seeking sanctuary from detention camps. They're seeking sanctuary from being booted back to their country. They're looking for a safe haven. I hope that is a good explanation for you guys. All right, candidates, please go.
I absolutely support sanctuary cities. It's not the obligation of our local law enforcement to enforce immigration law. That is the obligation of the federal government. That we are not to spend money because we're not going to get our money back if we start enforcing that. For many years under our current administration, our current supervisor, we've seen a sheriff or an ICE agent in our jail. Why? Why do we have an ICE agent in our jail? That shows the lack of respect for the people here and our diverse community. We offer a lot of jobs for people, Hispanics coming up, and Jimmy Panetta just recently initiated a bill to get them to the path of citizenship. I support that bill. I support being able to have seasonal work. We need them in our fields. We need them, and we need that workforce. We need to support them, and sanctuary cities is a good idea to protect them and not having our police running around enforcing the federal law. My unique time in law school, I got to work at an immigration law firm, and I worked with H-1B visas, and I know exactly how the immigration process works. I'm informed, I know how we can move forward and how we can protect people, and when I'm elected supervisor, I'm going to make sure that the people are not being harassed who are here to work and to support their families. That'll be a top priority of mine.
This will be an easy answer, and I think we'll probably all have the same answer. I'd be surprised if we don't. Yes, I do support sanctuary cities, sanctuary counties. I support the DACA program. I believe that it is the job of the federal government to enforce the laws that they have put forward. As a supervisor, I would make sure that not one dime is spent to send anyone back to a country to separate a child from their parents, their family, or anything to that nature. Very clear, very simple. I do support sanctuary cities, counties.
All right. So I actually authored the resolution that the Board of Supervisors passed in 2017 protecting our undocumented residents in Monterey County. I wrote the language, we sent it to the board, they approved it. Yes, I support sanctuary cities. Our school district also took swift action at the point in time when this became a concern. We passed resolutions in support, verifying and solidifying the safety of our campuses as places for all of our students to attend schools. We hosted Know Your Rights forums for our families so that they understood what their rights are as undocumented residents and community members and undocumented workforce, to be very honest. Beyond that, Esperanza Care is a program where we are offering through Natividad Health Center funding $2 million. We're funding 3,500 women primarily for basic health care services so that they stay out of the emergency rooms. So this is a way that we're investing in making sure that the health and safety of our community is clear. The Bright Beginnings Early Childhood Initiative program, we called it a Working Group A, where we studied the impact of immigration actions on children in our community, and then took action to go out into the communities that needed additional support and resources to be responsive to that. So this isn't just a question of do you support this, it's a question of what are you going to do about it, and how do you take the county's resources, understand the difference between the county, the city. We have federal property right here. We currently have a school on federal property. So children whose parents drive onto that campus, those federal agents are not our city police officers. So we're actually looking at how do we protect the families of our school district beyond just what currently happens. I spoke at the Lights for Liberty rally. I could go on and on, but this is an issue in our county where we have a huge number of undocumented, hardworking, undocumented families.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty much going to be on the same page, and I think to Ms. Askew's point, what are you going to do about it, and what have you done about it? I helped to co-author the resolution on what ultimately became a welcoming city for the city of Salinas. And we took it further to make sure that every single department was trained on how to not be a federal agent, but more importantly, offer services and be there to respond to every citizen's need, regardless of immigration status, and that's critical. And I know that there was a lot of divide at the time and a lot of misunderstanding. I mean, I think by now it's pretty clear that ultimately it's a federal responsibility to deal with immigration, and it's not the responsibility of local government, and that'll continue to be the case. I'll go further to say that I would stand with each of my colleagues and everybody else in this community to continue to advocate for folks that may be afraid. There's people that won't answer the door in the city of Salinas just to get a tree trim because they think that their immigration status could be in danger. And so there is a lot of work to do. I had an immigration community meeting on this very topic with Congressman Panetta. I want to say it was about 2 years ago. And that was an important topic then. It's an important topic now. And I know we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of fear out there. In the city of Salinas, 1 in 4 of our residents are undocumented. Our population might be 160,000, it's 200,000. On my staff, I've got a dreamer, and I've got one individual that's at risk of being deported based on his status. So it's very real for me as an employer. I've helped 2 individuals to gain citizenship. In the trenches of Salinas, I'll tell you, this is a very real issue, it's a controversial issue. It was one that hung up our council for a long time, and I'm proud to say we're united on the issue. As I think most of Monterey County has come.
Last question for you candidates before I let the audience take over. Do you believe in psychological treatments and institutions for Monterey County residents who suffer with trauma? We have a huge homeless population here in Monterey County, all over California. If someone came with an idea to put more psychological treatment institutions, I study psychology, that's really close to me. How would you address this issue? Do you think that we have a trauma issue in our county?
I think I understand the question. And it has to do with one of the items on my platform, which is bringing more services to the homeless. We can provide shelter, we can provide food, we have organizations that do just that. But for many of the homeless, they need psychological services. Back in the day when the mentally ill were let out, I forget which era that was. Reagan. I always forget, because it's not the first time it has come up. Those people were just released with no hope, with no services. They had been receiving services, and then all of a sudden everything was cut off. So their conditions probably have not changed, and if anything, they've gotten worse. So with the resources, I mean, Monterey County right now has resources, and we can use some of those resources to provide the services that some of the homeless people need, because not every homeless person is in need of psychological services. There are some homeless people who are homeless because they choose to be. There are some who, because of the economy, have been forced out of their homes. There are some because of psychological problems are now homeless. So for those individuals who are eligible to receive services like that, the county should be providing resources to answer those questions.
We have a huge issue with, in the school district I can speak to, students that come to our school, come into our classrooms and bring trauma with them, to the point that our teachers are traumatized by the pass-through trauma that occurs, and we're having to provide care and support and training and extra services to our faculty so that they can work with and be present for our students. So unequivocal, yes. Luckily, there is good information and good resources out there. Through the county health department, behavioral health, we're investing in trauma-informed care as a way that we approach serving our community. We're integrating behavioral health into primary health care so that we have behavioral health integrated in a way that you don't have to then be stigmatized to go over to the psychology department to get your mental health. It's right there when you go to the doctor. As far as homeless services, I'd love to talk more about that, so I'm going to save that for another time. I am incredibly proud that the county has taken a leadership role, and we're now in multiple years into the Government Alliance for Race and Equity, which is an initiative where we send a cohort of folks out from all of our departments, and they really learn about what is the connection between our racist past and how that continues to play out in our day-to-day delivery of services, and how do we change those systems of oppression so that they're no longer impacting people who come to the county for services. We're doing something very similar with the school district with our Courageous Conversations, and we have a contract with Pacific Educational Group. Whole Person Care is working to get folks who have been chronically homeless into housing. It is a wraparound, intense, very expensive way to bring people back into our system. I'll also mention Youth Mental Health First Aid is one of the things I'm incredibly proud of. We now have a mental health counselor on every single MPUSC campus, and we're providing training to all of our adults on campus and Youth Mental Health First Aid.
So a week ago, I spent about an hour and a half with Luis Gerardo. His wife was brutally murdered in front of their home on Clay Street. He chased down the man that did it and caught him, and the man didn't even know what he had done. There's no doubt that this man is mentally ill, and in his defense through the court system, he's going to plead that. I am convinced that we have a mental crisis, and it particularly shows its ugly face in homelessness. You know, in response to that murder, we had what I think some in this room would classify, and I know I was speaking with Nona about this, an impromptu visit with residents that actually amounted to 60 people. Now, while there was a lot of hatred and a lot of name calling, and folks that just wanted the homeless rounded up, we were able to come up with more solutions, and ultimately a visit last night, which, as KSPW reported, 400 people. Over 10 years I've been on the Salinas City Council. This was the largest community meeting I'd ever had. We had the YMCA gym at the Brim. And everybody at the end of that visit said, wow, surprising, like it actually worked. We had 15 tables, 20, 30 people around each table. We identified the 5 top challenges, the 5 top solutions. Facilitators from those tables met, and we came up with 5 recommendations, 2 of which are already engaged, thanks to the leadership of the council and the mayor. One of those is added security, sure, but the most important relates directly to this topic. We dispatched an officer specifically for homelessness, and we knew that law enforcement's not the solution. It's got to be wrapped around with mental health. And I'm proud to say, in a partnership with Interim, we announced today that starting within a week, that officer will go out as part of what we call the HOT team, alongside mental health and a client that has benefited from mental health outreach thanks to Interim. Those sorts of collaborative solutions are the answer.
Thank you, candidates.
One more.
Apologies.
We always save the best for last. On the ballot, too. I've heard a story about a young man who had a psychological problem and was admitted at hospital, and they released him at 4 in the morning. And that needs to stop. Natividad is one of the biggest budget items for the County of Monterey. It is huge. It is a lot of money. We're bringing in doctors from LA to fix your heart. If you need a new heart, they'll give you a new heart. If you need a new leg, they'll give you a new leg. But if you have a mental health problem, they don't care. They'll let you walk away. And that needs to stop. Natividad should be focused in on mental health. Natividad, we should have some of the best mental health doctors there, and we should make our facility a mental health facility, because the residents in this area need that. When I'm elected, I'd like to do tiny homes for the homeless on Fort Ord. When we have them in an area, we can provide services for them. We can have Natividad doctors that work on mental health, be in the communities, helping the people that need it most. Because having somebody who's having a psychotic episode and walking around our streets at 3 o'clock is not a good image for any of us. So you can count on me to work with mental health and to make sure that people are taken care of here in this county.
All right, it's your time now. It's the community's time. Being in third world countries, being overseas, the biggest thing to policy implementation is the people. I can stand up here all day and be an intellectual and access a whole bunch of knowledge that I might have read out of a book, read from a site, or talked to someone, but you are the people that live here. And they're going to make their policy recommendations. They're going to create amazing things through you. So I'm going to try to get to everyone. It is 11:02, and I'm going to get us out of here at 11:50. So who wants to go first and raise their hand? There we go.
Hi, I'm Ava Schofield. I know some of you. I'm on the Homeless Committee of Seaside. Independent of the committee, I'm inviting all of you and anybody else here who wants to come to a presentation that I will be doing, and I do have a question here, to a presentation that I will be giving on 2 highly successful, nationally recognized, very low-income housing, tiny house communities that I visited and interviewed the project manager in Eugene, Oregon. I have lots of data on these communities and why they are successful. My question to you is, will you come and listen to my presentation and to all of the incredible information that I have to offer?
Please save me a seat. I will be there. I'm on the commission, Neighborhood Improvement Commission. We work very closely with the other commissions of the city of Seaside. I'm the candidate up here that has proposed tiny homes. They've worked in Eugene, Oregon. They've worked in Utah. They've worked in LA. They've worked in Vegas. They are working. Why can't we bring that here? And I have a great spot to put it, right where the current supervisor's office is now. And we can help the homeless. We'll make tiny homes. We'll put it right there.
Thank you. I want to say real quickly, I am presenting this separate from the committee. But yes, thank you.
The date. Yes, date
I will
and
give the
time.
date. I will give the date later. Okay. Yes. And I will make it around your schedules. I'll make it around your schedules.
Yeah, absolutely, counterfeit. I think some of the challenges that I appreciate the question about homelessness, and it's been something that I've worked on really closely for the past, I don't know, especially the past 3 years, but going back. finding the political support, finding the community support for the locations for where we put these things is more difficult than anything I've ever worked on. The current location of our homeless shelter in Salinas, where we're looking to build a new shelter with state funds, the current location that we're looking to put a shelter in Seaside, the current location that we're doing safe parking, there are lawsuits for all of those projects. There are opponents who are vocal and loud telling us that we cannot put our projects there. We're trying really hard to move, to find allies in city government, and I have to say the city of Seaside has been a phenomenal partner with the county. We're funding programs, and they're saying we want to find ways to work in partnership with you. So hats off to the community of Seaside. I know it's controversial, and I know not everyone agrees, but we need more shelter beds, and I'm on board to work to both get the community, to build that community support and those voices, and then really have those trusting relationships with the cities, which is where we need to place these things. We can't just take a homeless shelter or 20-home village and put it out in the middle of the unincorporated county and expect that people are going to have the services that they need. So, all in. Thank you.
So I'm very, very committed to this topic, and as a policymaker for near 10 years, it's been one of our top goals as a city. We've carried our burden. That is, in many cases, funded above and beyond, far and above and beyond what the county, say, would put up, or other agencies, when it comes for addressing homelessness. I do support tiny homes, and I think it's a smart idea to focus on more housing, more diverse housing, and smaller housing. I think if you could stabilize a human being with a roof over their head, a lot of the other services can follow, and that's just essential. So Ava, tell me, I remember we talked about your visit to Eugene, and you showed me pictures. I'd love to be there, so just let us know, and I think we all have interest in that. I'm going to expand a little bit more on homelessness, because it's just not difficult, it's not easy. I think it's a shared responsibility. So Seaside is a good example, as is Salinas, where local government owns the issue alongside the county. So those sorts of partnerships are great. I think there's a lot of benefit from the nonprofit community. I sit on the board for an organization called Community Human Services, and we'll be cooperating, the shelter here in Seaside and Salinas. I'm very engaged in that, and I have to say that as a board member, I'm working on a day center that'll be focused on homeless. You see, what happens when they're given a warm lunch at the First United Methodist Church, and then they're released? Where do they go, right? They end up in residential neighborhoods. They sleep on the doorsteps of businesses that may not be occupied, or folks are away. It just causes a lot of problems. So we need to make sure that there's a complete story and a complete set of solutions there. I'm also a big fan of some of the innovative nonprofit efforts like Downtown Streets Team, where homeless are employed but not given cash, but given services in response to aiding and outreach and even cleanup efforts. There's a lot that can be done here, and housing is an important part of the challenge that we face. Thanks.
We can go to the next community member unless any candidate wants to ask.
I'd like to point out that the reason why there are lawsuits regarding these places is because they didn't do the planning. They just said, this is where we're going to put our homeless shelter, and that's it. I walked those neighborhoods. I walked around, I knocked on people's doors, and I said, who contacted you? Who asked you about the homeless shelter? They said, nobody. Not true. It is absolutely true. I knocked on those doors. No one was contacted there. So if we're just going to decide as a county to put things in certain places, we need to be accountable, have community meetings there, make it accessible for those people to speak, and give them a voice. Instead of just putting it right there, you're going to get sued if you do it that way.
All right.
I have a question from our Facebook Live audience. They asked, how do we address parking shortages with high-density development?
What was the question again?
How do we address parking shortages for high-density development?
I think that comes around to me. So, when you look at the way residential developments have occurred over the last 30, 40 years, it's almost like we've designed around the car and not around the people. And I'll look to our future growth area. This is nearly 4,000 units, and it's the most densely populated, it's the most transit-oriented development in the history of the city. In fact, we think we might get up to 13 units per acre with all of the state incentives for density bonuses. We're talking about 6-story high housing development with commercial on the bottom, and transit and walkability is a priority. Now, it may not be perfect, but we're working towards that, and I think that's where we need to be as a society. We can't continue to develop around the car. We've got to develop around people. I don't know about you, but I swear, everybody I know spends more time on these devices. Thank you for watching Facebook Live. More people spend time watching television. More people spend time in the car than ever in history. We've got to stand up against this and rethink how that works. And I'm anxious to play a role in that. I know it's pretty pie in the sky. To the issue of parking, we've got to look towards carpooling. I do sit on the California Van Pool Authority. We have 1,000 vans in service, 250 of them, near 250 of them, in service in Monterey County. Many people don't even know that there's these van pools available. Even MST offers opportunities. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's promoting, it's connecting, and as a supervisor, certainly active as part of Monterey Salinas Transit, I will do what I can to promote and enhance both public and private opportunities to reduce the impact of cars. Seaside's a prime example. I mean, it's 5 families to a home, and each family has 4 or 5 cars. Something must be done about it.
One thing I would focus on is public transportation. And there's been talk and in the works of there being a tram from Marina, CSUMB, Seaside, Monterey, and potentially even Pacific Grove. We need to expand those ideas, expand public transportation, have a better bus system that people don't necessarily need a car. And when we have public transportation that's readily available, people will stop buying cars. And they'll be using the public transportation because owning a car is very expensive. So I would increase public transportation and do everything you can as a supervisor to work with the Transportation Authority.
Thank you. Okay. Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay, so in another forum that we attended, I also mentioned the prospect of increasing mass transportation. As I look out on the highway when I'm driving, there are so many cars with single occupants going wherever we're going. So we have to increase mass transportation, whatever that looks like. If it looks like van pooling, carpooling, if businesses need to incentivize mass transportation in their businesses, then that's what we need to do, which will reduce the carbon footprint. If we're concerned about climate change, then that's the way to do it. I think that's it. It's very simple also. Mass transportation answers the question about parking shortages in high-density development.
Right, so this question actually gets at a couple different issues. In Monterey Peninsula and in Monterey County, we have a tremendous jobs housing imbalance. So in Monterey, you have 12,000 cars, 12,000 people coming into Monterey every day for work and then leaving Monterey at the end of the day. In Carmel, you have 2,000 people coming into Carmel and then leaving Carmel because they can't afford to live where they work. And we don't have the housing in those locations. We have the workforce in those locations, which is fabulous, but we don't have the housing. So getting at that issue, I think, is fundamental to how we start to transition away from the reliance on cars, which then gets at our parking issue. And yeah, parking shortages in high-density housing areas, like that's a real issue that we're gonna have to figure out. As a mom that drove around with a baby in my car seat, and I'm sure, like everyone here has done this, I would look for drive-thrus. I don't want to have to park my car down the street and carry my kid, a block in his thing while he's screaming and I've got the diaper bag to get to my house. I don't want to have to, do the same thing at the grocery store. Like, I want a drive-thru that I can, live in my car. My mom, who has a disability and has a disability placard on her car, there are people who rely on this. And so I think it's disingenuous of us to say, well, we'll just sort it out. I think it is a real issue. And having said that, there are things we need to do to move towards increased transit so that it is more convenient. I do serve as the alternate on the transportation agency for Monterey County. I'm out of time, but we can talk more about it.
All right, we're gonna go Linda, and then we have tons of time, so 1, 2, remember your number, 3, 4. All right.
I think you've all said some really interesting, wonderful things about the homeless, but I haven't heard anything or any of you talk about different needs. So what will you do for the needs of the women that are homeless in our community?
The question is, how would we approach the homeless population who have increasingly become more and more women? Is that my understanding?
Yeah, it's tripled in the last 20 years, and they have different needs. Many of the shelters are...
Somebody give her a mic.
The homeless situation for women has tripled in the last 20 years. And my concern is that we do have shelters, and we're doing some pretty interesting things with shelters, but that's not a safe place for women. So what are we going to do for women that are homeless in our community? They have different needs. How are we going to address those?
As I've said for a majority of the day, is that I have a plan. I have a vision. And my vision is to move the supervisor's office from where it is and use that for the homeless. And there's a lot of room around that supervisor office on Fort Ord, and we're going to have a special place for women and children who need the services, and we're going to provide those services to the women and children there at the complex, where we have safe parking, tents, and we also have our tiny homes. So we will have a specific place for women and children, and we'll provide safety and provide the resources that they need.
I think that's really the basic answer, because the women with children need to be separate from male homeless. So the city of Seaside has or is developing a shelter for women with children. And we need more beds. We need more facilities that will accommodate women with children, whether it's in Seaside. It needs to be in all cities, because right now it appears that the NIMBY prospect is available everywhere else, and only Seaside and Salinas have welcoming arms for homeless. So this needs to be, it's a countywide, it's a statewide problem, it's a nationwide problem. So every city needs to open up their arms to their homeless. And their homeless shouldn't be shipped to Seaside, shouldn't be shipped to Salinas. We should take care of our own. And whatever those needs are, if the needs are for women with children separate from adult males, whatever the case may be, then those are the resources that we need to provide to take care of that issue.
I have so much to say. Okay, so I'm going to start, Linda, and I think that this fundamentally is an issue of how we take care of so if you're a woman and you're a caretaker, and in my mother's generation, she spent a lot of time as a caretaker. She wasn't earning Social Security credits, she wasn't earning retirement, she wasn't earning a pension, and so then you retire and you're left without the same social safety nets that would be available to someone who was working. And in a world and in a society where women are the caretakers of children and of elderly and of disabled family members, this will remain a challenge, this will remain a problem. So like big picture prevention side, that's a big issue that we've got to talk about and think about. In terms of where we put homeless shelters, we do have gatherings for women in Monterey. We're building we're rehabbing the Seaside shelter, which will be up to 40 beds for women and families, women and children. The Pueblo Del Mar program is something that I personally fought to keep funding for. It's been on the chopping block a number of times. It's a program that houses women and children and families who come out of drug rehabilitation programs. It reunites mothers with their children who've been in the foster care system and gives them the tools and the skills that they need to be successful and to get back on their feet again. It's an incredibly successful program in Marina. I will say, when you look at the homeless census and go pull up the 2019 homeless census, Marina currently has more shelter beds than the rest of the county cities combined. So when we talk about putting additional shelter beds in Marina, I'm all for it, but one of the arguments that we hear from the residents and the city council in Marina is that they are doing their part and they want to see others do their part as well. So we have an option. We have the Veterans Transition Center has, I think it's 19,000 square feet in their basement, and they're interested in adding shelter beds. We need the political support in addition to the community support. At the supervisor's office, I'm out of time.
Resident number 2.
Hello.
So, hang on, I was just gonna go real quick. It is a huge, staggering issue, and as was shared last night, LA has 98,000 people homeless, 16,000 living out of cars. Gavin Newsom has announced homelessness as his #1 priority going into 2020, and as a county supervisor, I cannot wait to work with him and the administration on solutions. When you look at homelessness, I have to first recognize the faith community. Right here at Ocean View Baptist, I know they play their part. Christmas night, I joined to serve dinner for, I think it was about a dozen homeless women on a rainy night. And as I had dinner with them and spoke with them about their stories, most of them had jobs. They just didn't have a place to stay, and they rotated from one church to the other. At the community meeting that I had at the Mancini's just a few nights ago, we had a woman show up that owns a salon here in Seaside, and she's homeless. Now, she doesn't sleep at the salon, don't get worried, Mayor. But what I will say is she is without a home, and she told her story. It's just too expensive to live. So understanding it in that capacity and personalizing it, I would say that we do need to segment who we serve. A men's homeless community is different than a homeless community that is, say, families or women. And it's a shared responsibility. And I do believe we could lean more on the faith community. The faith community is overwhelming. As a member of the faith community, I'll be leading services in Marina tomorrow. I will say it's the #1 area of service. And as we met last night, and there were hundreds of us, Nona, there was, I think, would you say 300, maybe more? Half were from the faith community. So I help Gathering for Women, Community Human Services. We've got to do more, and we've got to invite more people to be a part of the solution. And I think the faith community is low-hanging fruit.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm going to have Resident 2 talk on the mic, and then after Resident 2 speaks, he's going to go back to his seat, and Resident 3 is going to come and sit up here.
Hello, everyone. First, I'm Stephen Goings. I'm a CSUMB and community activist. First of all, I want to thank Pastor Murray for hosting us today. Thank you, Nathan, for your job facilitating. You mentioned demographics, and that sparked a question for me. The city of Seaside, in the 25 years since the base closure, the city of Seaside has went from over 30% black population to 7% at this point. And one of the results of that, or outcomes of that, is we have, I would say, maybe a couple of dozen African American leaders throughout the area, mostly in their 70s and 80s, holding up half a dozen organizations that are in decline. And so what I want to know is, what is your creative thinking in terms of how we can revitalize this important community, once upon a time the most important black community between Oakland and Los Angeles, and what can we do in terms of preserving the very unique history of blacks in this area?
You talk.
All right.
I have to get myself together quickly. What can we do
Closer.
to preserve the...
Revitalize and preserve.
Yes.
Revitalize and preserve. I haven't touched it.
Test.
Test it.
Fun with
Is
technology.
this better? Yes, I can hear it. I can hear myself. Preserve and revitalize. That's a big question, and it comes down to housing and jobs. If you can't afford to live here, you're going to go somewhere else where it's affordable. And so if you can't afford to live here, it's probably because you don't have a job that supports your ability to live here. And again, we're going back to questions we've already asked that has to do with attracting businesses to this area. And we know that we need to attract business, but without water, we're not going to attract businesses. So we go back to the foundational element, which has to do with bringing water, sustainable water, to this area. It's not to say that we don't go out and talk to Google, talk to Yahoo, talk to Silicon Valley to discuss bringing jobs here, but we have a job to do here first so that when they come, I didn't say if, I said when they come, we're prepared for them. And we can offer them, we can incentivize whatever we need to in order for them to remain in this area. Because if they're not going to come, number one, if there's no water to sustain them. And number two, if they do come and the water runs out, they're going to take their business somewhere else. There were some comments made earlier about small business. I agree with small businesses, but small business is not going to generate the revenue for the area to sustain itself. That's just my belief. But every drop in the bucket counts. So we do need to support small businesses. That's fine. Oh, sorry.
You know, I don't have a really great answer for your question, Stephen, and it is a question that I would love to sit down and chat with the NAACP about. I think that that's where I would look to for guidance and advice about what the needs are, and then we can go back to the county and speak to the city and some of our regional city partners and figure out, okay, so if there are resources needed, what are those resources? Where do we find those buckets of money? The county has a $1.5 billion budget, but 2/3 of that is already passed through, dedicated for very specific purposes. So within the discretionary funds that we have, and within the departments, and within the mandates and programs that we have, how can we find ways to work in partnership? That's a conversation I would be very interested in having.
Let's set up a meeting.
What was that?
Let's set up a meeting.
Okay, awesome. In the meantime, I will say that one of the things that we've recognized at Monterey Peninsula Unified School District is that we don't have our teachers don't look like the students who are in our classrooms. And that's problematic for so many reasons. And so we, for years, the district would go out to historically black colleges to recruit teachers, to bring them here. We don't keep teachers when we bring them here because the cost of living is so high. So we took a step back and said, okay, that's not working. We'll continue doing that, but we need to do something more. And so the something more that we're doing is a teacher residency program where we're bringing in teachers, aspiring teachers who are from our community, who grew up in our community, who look like our community, and we're giving them the training to become a teacher so that they will teach in our community so that we can start to bridge this diversity gap between our teaching force and our students. In addition to that, we have an aspiring administrators program where we are working aggressively to create pathways for our workforce within the school district to come into administrative positions so that not only do our teachers look like our students, but our principals and our counselors and our cabinet look like and have the lived experiences of our students.
African Americans suffer some of the highest incarceration rates in the nation as a percentage, not to mention recidivism, homelessness, and Seaside is just representative of what's happened nationally, if not worse, given the skyrocketing cost of housing and lack of opportunity. When I think about where and how a county supervisor can be of greatest impact, it's attention to the issue. Certainly the NAACP is an important piece of that, but I would also say the African American faith community. There's a lot of discussion and a lot of issues surrounding this, and it's only getting worse. And a lot of that does surround opportunity, making sure that our hiring matches the community that we live in, but incentivizing business ownership, nonprofit entrepreneurship within that group of folks. It's a challenge. It's an alarming challenge, and it's a priority to me. It's a priority to Seaside, and quite frankly, there's been little leadership on this topic. When I think of the individuals that I've met with, that includes Daryl Chapter with his station. I mean, to some extent, he was run out of there. When I think of Mel and Regina Mason and the Village Project, here we have a nationally recognized nonprofit effort. What's been done specifically from the county to celebrate and, more importantly, help to grow and if nothing else, incentivize all of the efforts that they've got so many great ideas. So if capital and leadership were there, those would be additional opportunities for members of the African American community. I would also reference even the parking program at Bethel Missionary. I spent a lot of time at the various Baptist churches in Seaside, and that will not stop. And I think our church leadership is going to be in the driver's seat, and the county supervisor not only needs a presence, but a willingness to address this, and it can't just be through government.
Ms. Askew is absolutely right that we have a lack of diversity in our teachers, but we also have a lack of diversity in our county employees. The county has the largest employer, and they're not showing diversity in their hiring strategies. We need to encourage that throughout all the departments, to encourage diversity in employment, make sure that's a top priority. Secondly, I'll say it again, I know I've said it 3 times, but our multicultural center. Our multicultural center is going to work with the NAACP. We're going to celebrate the cultures of African Americans at our site. We need to have a place where people can go, a place where cultures can go and celebrate. And my last comment is the reason why 30% African American to now 7% is because they've all went to Sacramento. You can go to Sacramento and go down the street and every single person is from Seaside. And that's because of the cost of living. They moved there because they didn't have opportunity here. They couldn't afford the housing. They couldn't get the jobs. But when I'm elected supervisor, I'm going to incorporate every single ethnicity and make sure that everybody's represented and taken care of here in District 4.
All right, to respect all the residents' time, it's 11:31. Candidates, if it's okay, could the questions go down the 2 minutes to 1 minute so we can get a little bit more richness and diversity of the group? If that's okay with you guys. Can you answer a little bit in under 1 minute? Okay.
I think my question might take more than 1 minute. So my name is Carrie Swenson. I'm the owner of the Silva Learning Center in Salinas, and I work with families and children every day. So my question revolves around education, because that's a huge concern for me. And just for some statistics, the average reading level of Salinas Union High School District students is 6th grade level. Our students are not reading, they're not able to read. So when you talk about bringing in jobs and having our students be the ones running those jobs, they can't do it if they can't read. So we're gonna go to Silicon Valley and bring in more people. We need our kids reading. So my question is, what are you gonna do about our students and their lack of reading? And as an educator, and I'm a credentialed teacher from Washington State National, and this is a national problem.
Askew, would you like to?
Yeah, I'm going to write down. Thank you. So just as a point of clarification, the County Office of Education is a separate agency from the County of Monterey. And then each of the 24 school districts in the county are separate from the County Office of Education. The County Office of Education has fiscal responsibilities to maintain their oversight and to do some reporting, but really we have 24 different school districts in the County of Monterey, each with their own elected board of education. So I can speak to, in general, Bright Futures is a collective impact initiative that we started a few years ago. Bright Beginnings is the early education portion of that, and 3rd grade reading level is one of the key indicators, and kindergarten readiness is another one of the key indicators. So the do this really hard question to answer in a minute. I would point to there are things happening, and I would encourage you to get involved with the Monterey County Children's Council, where I've been a member for the last year, and I'm happy to provide more information. But yes, it's an issue, and the social services that provide for those kids so that they show up to school ready to learn. That's housing, that's nutrition, that's WIC services, that's healthcare. That is the responsibility of the county. I tried.
As resources have gotten tighter, it's critical for nonprofits, government, and business to work together. I see that in community human services. I'm going to support First 5. I'm going to support even the pre-K. I mean, I have a 2-year-old, and we know that those first 3 years of life are critical, and you can't spend them on a tablet or in somebody else's arms. So as a leader, I'm going to emphasize the importance of our county libraries serving as an opportunity site, not just for the pre-K, and there's some really innovative programs that our county libraries been able to bring about, even through the generosity of our Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries and businesses that are engaged. But I would go further to say they should be a safe place and a place for exposure to things that you may not get at school, whether that's art, music, creativity. You know, as I said earlier, you know, the amount of opportunity for those under 25, and in particular high school, where you can learn to dream and explore things that maybe not be limited in a classroom or by even your parents, you really can open doors. So it's a pressing issue, and it's one that I certainly am ready to be committed to as a parent of two.
I come from a family of teachers. My father's here, 30-year retired teacher, college professor. My brother's a teacher. I've been teaching. I go to these classrooms and I'm disgusted with the resources they have. The books are missing pages, the books are graffitied on, the desks are graffitied on. We need to provide more money so that we can help schools get more resources, better books at a younger age. So those K through third, they get the resources they need. Right now, we're not spending the money properly on the kids, and what's happening is they're not getting the books they need, the material they need. And as a supervisor, I would absolutely encourage more money being utilized to our schools and make sure that the kids have the resources to learn to read.
As a mother of 6 children, I would say, as a county supervisor, I would ask parents to take more time with their children. I did not depend upon the schools to teach my children to read. They were reading when they got there. The parent of 6 GATE students, not just students, 6 GATE students, I believe that the schools can only do so much. California used to be one of the top states in education. Now we're near the bottom, if not at the bottom. The resources that we have, and more resources have been committed to education, but we need to better utilize those resources at an earlier age, because if we can get the students into reading with comprehension at an earlier age, by the time they get to high school, when you get them, they'll be better prepared. By the time they're prepared to enter into business or the job market, they will be prepared, but we have to start earlier. And parents have to take more of a responsibility.
Before we go to resident 3, is there any politicians here, Congressman Panetta, representatives? I believe I see Congressman Panetta's rival, I guess you could say. If you want to sit right up here and instead of standing and introduce yourself really quick, go ahead, you can. You know, I like to make sure everyone who calls is.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Adam Bolaños-Scow. I am a Democrat candidate for U.S. Congress. I've been an environmental advocate my whole life. I helped ban fracking in Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, and San Benito County. My parents were school teachers, and my grandfather was a farm worker here in the 1940s. I'm running because we have an affordability crisis that is driving us out of this region, and we have a climate crisis that is going to drive us off of this planet if we don't act dramatically and very quickly. My campaign is not taking any corporate money. My opponent is primarily funded by corporate PAC money. We have a system of corruption. I'm running to fight for the people, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you very much.
All right, it is 11:39, so I am going to give one more question. I apologize, but look, the candidates will be here right after I'm done talking. You can get their numbers, their information, and you can just meet up with them for coffee. I hate to play paper, rock, scissors, but I have to be respectful to the order that I started with, and then I have to give the candidates the FIs and closing statement. I gave it to number 3 earlier. Okay, go ahead, Pastor Murray.
Point of clarification, because you did ask the public for questions.
Yes.
And we know we have a time limit from in the 12, and I'm not gonna kick you out. So, I would want to give the opportunity to the public to ask those questions. And if anybody has to leave, they just have to leave. But I think.
All right, how about this?
Because I know you're a timely person, but sometimes we have to run overtime, just like football, just like basketball, just like baseball. So I'm saying that in regards to allow the public that came here and that raised their hand to have that opportunity to ask the questions. And if they choose not to, then that's their option. But and then we'll have the closing statements by the candidates. And then I would want to give a closing statement before you allow the candidates, because I have a question. And I feel that I should be able to answer my question. So, Mr. Moderator, with all respect, I would want to do that and allow that to happen. And if any organizations have to leave, we understand anybody has to leave, we understand, but I do think that it's very important of this setting that you have the opportunity to ask your questions in the time constraint that has been set up and given. Thank you.
I would like respectfully to add my name to that list of people asking questions. I have one more.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the candidates also, because I want to respect these people's time as well, because we all know that they have other venues and organizations to go to, and we want to respect that as well. And I did this for you, and I want to make sure that you guys get your voices heard. And so I'm going to ask the candidates if they want to stay at least till 12:15-ish. Go ahead.
Just as a suggestion, for those who do have to leave, maybe we do our closing statements, and then we're happy to stay and continue asking. I mean, I'm happy to stay. We have I think our next interview is at 3. We do this again at 3 o'clock in Marina, so come join us. But so that way, those who need to leave get to hear our closing statements, and then those who want to hear more can.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And I've got 40,000 doors to walk on, so.
Hi.
All right, I'm going to go to resident number 3. Do you want to stand and just ask your question? Okay. Resident number 4.
Hi everybody, Tom Mancini, most of you know me. Having grown up on the East Coast, I want you to know that California screwed up. Because when you go into Providence, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, you have these massive transit systems. People don't need cars. And if you go to Europe, they did the same thing. So California decided to become a car state instead of a living accommodation. Go into New York. My sister lived in New York, worked in New York, lived in New Jersey. She'd take the ferry across and you get on the bus and go to work. A lot of people do not know that Monterey County has probably the most non-profit organizations in the country. There's about over 200, I think, or something like that. But two issues that really bother me the most. Not worrying about the veterans anymore, because next year they'll be breaking ground for 70 units. They got a $5 million grant last year, and somebody just gave them another $1.5 million. And for those interested in cemetery, phase 2 starts in a couple of months. The homeless issue just continues to be the big center of attraction here. But there's another group of people we forgot. I'm not going to talk about the teenagers who go down to Safe Place with CHS. I'm going to talk about the kids living in their cars. The students living in their cars with their moms, and they live in their car, they go to school, mom picks them up, puts them in the back seat again. So that issue is not only District 4, that's countywide. Am I right? I didn't miss that one. So how are we going to address the issue of kids living in cars?
Thank you, sir.
I want to let you know, Winnie, I know you have 6, I have 5. My population have changed because only one of my children live in this area. The others are outside the area, and I know yours are not able to come back and work here and live here and work here too. That's some of the issues that we have to talk about, the Wini population. That's what happened to some of the whites too.
Candidates, who would like to go first? Steve?
Sure. Well, I mean, touching on homelessness again, I don't think it's one silver bullet. I think we've got to dissect the various communities, whether it's mental health, whether it's addiction, or whether it's folks that are just one paycheck out and away from having been in a warm place to stay. When it comes to a safe place to park, I think that that's come up. It's being addressed in Seaside as it relates to children, and in particularly, I think as some attention has been given to students. I know that the community college has shown some leadership there. You know, we have to rethink how we house people. I think we should consider more attention towards on-farm housing of guest workers that would open up units within cities. I don't think we should poo-poo dormitory-style housing for individuals that have just graduated or, you know, are on a very limited budget. There's ways that Silicon Valley has solved some of these challenges, and I think we need to think creatively and collaboratively. And as a supervisor, that's my style, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, I've already answered that question, and for District 4 in particular, I think we need an area where everybody can go. An area where they can go. A brick and mortar facility, they have a roof over their head, and my proposal is to do it on Fort Ord and to do something with tiny homes. We will have a section for women and kids. We'll give the kids the resources they need, but if we have an area where we can designate for that use, then we can provide the services to them. So I've answered the question. Tiny homes is something that I'm advocating for, that we've done in other cities, and we can bring that here in the Monterey Peninsula and have tiny homes for children who are living in their car, which absolutely disgusts me.
Yes, this is a question that I think we have answered. So we're just going to regurgitate what we've already said. We need to have facilities where we have beds. We need to have separate facilities for women with children and provide the resources they need, whether it's for drug rehabilitation for the parents, whether it's trauma services, whatever they need, we need to provide that within our budget.
Right, so according to McKinney-Vento definition, 1 in 10 of our students in Monterey County is homeless.
Yep.
To repeat that, 1 in 10 of our students is defined as McKinney-Vento as being homeless. We have that unacceptable on every level. So we're talking about a crisis, we're talking about an emergency. We do have children living in their cars. We have parents living in their cars. We have disabled people sleeping in their cars in the parking lot in front of my office. I want to say that we took the initiative. The county is funding a safe parking program in Marina currently. The city of Seaside, God bless you, have welcomed, you've changed your own ordinances to welcome safe parking in the city of Seaside as well. 85% of the people in that program are working full-time. I want to make another point that Salinas also made a lot of the cities made bans on sleeping in cars or sleeping in RVs. The city of Salinas also took action to ban RVs, but the county is the only program that offers a solution for people and another option for people. It's the thing that allows us to do enforcement to keep those RVs off of our street. I could talk all day long about this, but it's a crisis and it requires crisis response.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and go to final statements to respect times, if that's okay with everyone. And I want to get a photo with everyone and let the Monterey County candidates get photos with you guys, things like that. And I promise you, the candidates aren't going anywhere. They're not running out. They'll still be here. I mean, they're the people that you want to talk to anyway.
I'm sorry, were you going to do the pastor first?
Pastor Murray, go ahead and finish. I'm just trying to respect time of everyone.
I think I've clarified and respecting time for everyone. And just Askew has said that they're willing to stay. We do know that there is another forum at 3 o'clock, and so we want to respect that, but that's 3 hours away. It's only 5 miles away. So we want to say that if you don't get it here, please go there and support that forum in Marina. I want to say on the topic of homelessness, specifically in the city of Seaside, recognize it as a nationwide problem. But I do believe that we are addressing it as possible as we can in this city. I've served on the homeless committee for the city of Seaside, and as Ms. Alvin said, we meet every fourth Thursday at 6:30. But I'm going to take my time in saying this because you're looking at a pastor that was homeless. So homeless hits everyone. You're looking at a pastor that was homeless while pastoring this church with a church parsonage next door. But why would I put somebody out to put myself in? Because I would have just created another homeless family with 3 kids. So I slept in my office next door until I moved to a hotel with my wife and 2 daughters and 3 grandsons. This is back in 2017 to the middle of 2018. So I know homelessness is real. I understand, Mr. Miller, your passion for creating tiny homes, and I do believe tiny homes will work, but they won't work at the current location of the county offices because that is not county grounds. It's getting ready to be developed by the city of Marina, and that's why they had to move their safe parking, and they reached out to Seaside for that, and the city council and the citizens accepted it, and Pastor Harold Lusk at Bethel Baptist Church is the one that's going to facilitate that safe parking program, which is a structured program. We do know that there's homeless students. We recognize that, and that is an enormous problem, not just here but anywhere. And we're trying to address that through the school district. I believe before it hits the county, we need to go talk about it at school board meetings, and then allow them to collaborate together to solve that issue, because it involves all of our students. But the first person that needs to hear that is the school board. And that's not taking shots, but that's just saying, if we're going to be concerned and voice our opinion, we need to show up at the school board meetings on those Tuesdays and do it when it's on the agenda or during public speaking. Then thirdly, this church is compassionate about reaching out to homeless, and it's been said about the faith-based community. Well, the faith-based community is doing their part in the city of Seaside, whether it be every Friday or every other Friday or one Friday a month through hosting the I Help Men's program, or even hosting the I Help Women's program, and providing them a place to sleep that night and eat. And I believe that Old Fort Ord Chapel is still inconsistent with providing meals on a certain day, even though the chapel is closed, but the work hasn't stopped. And they come out and they provide meals on those days. So there is a collaboration of at least 5 or 6 churches in the city of Seaside that are involved in the homelessness program. And we are collaborating, and I thank God for Pastor Dunham, Pastor of Friendship Baptist Church, and our Monterey Bay District moderator of our association. And I just want to give that clarification that we are doing our part. We're willing to do more if we can. And on every Thursday night, Pastor Lusk, in a collaboration of, what's that fellowship? Jewish Christian Muslim, they collaborate every Thursday at 5 o'clock, and they feed the homeless population. And there's attendance of about 15 to 20 right now, because it just changed locations. But there's also an attendance of workers that prepare the food starting at 2 o'clock. of about 15 or 20 that gather, preparing the food of different faith-based organizations, but they're collaborating together. So my thing is that we have to get out the boat. You gotta leave from the comfort zone of your homes, of your job. If you're gonna deal with homelessness, don't deal with it right here. Get out the boat. Don't deal with it in coffee shops, home shops, restaurant shops. Get out the boat. Go to where the homeless are and ask them what they need. Ask them what can we do to better service their population. We have to get out the boat, you all, and we have to go to them. Because if you're going to change, then you got to be the change. You ain't going to change them at this point. You ain't going to change them going in the office and giving your promises, because some of y'all ain't going to keep your promise. And I'm saying that from the pulpit to the door, that we're promise breakers. I only know one promise keeper. And I'm going to leave it right there.
Thank you, Pastor Murray.
Don't cut me off, brother. Because I'm speaking real talk, because I put it on Facebook. And I'm serious about this. Is that you all need to walk the streets, walk the park of Laguna Grande. I read on Facebook, just like y'all read, that Peninsula Crime Watch, there's people that are being found unconscious, even people that have lost their lives because of the cold air. I sleep, currently, I don't care if the mayor was here, I sleep 2 homeless people in my church right now that have been here for over 2 months. And they ain't got to be members, even though they are members, but they're homeless. And if I can come to you, I have to come to you with transparency, saying that if I could do it, you could do it. And I don't need no money. So if y'all gonna make your promise about the homelessness, be about it. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. Don't worry about what's being built on Chinatown. The homeless ain't got nothing to do with that. Some developers, some people are building it, and they ain't gonna run the homeless out of Chinatown. Okay? We got to go on Fremont. Now y'all complained about them being in front of the Salvation Army store. Now the store that was closed every day, now all of a sudden the doors are open every day. But where the homeless people go, they just move from one location to the next. But how many of you, 4, have shook hands? And before you hand out a pamphlet, how many of you going to shake their hands and be concerned, give them $1, give them a cup of coffee, give them a sandwich, before you try to get them to register to vote?
Thank you, Pastor Murray. I want to say something before we do the closing statements for the candidates here. I've only been here a year, and this forum right here is very important, because when I tried to get this started and I tried to connect all the organizations that I'm affiliated with, everyone was so divided in this community. And it's a community problem. We are divided right now. And I feel like, and I'm very passionate about this because I'm an activist that has traveled the world. 26 years old, I fought human trafficking in the Philippines, got stabbed. I was a corrections officer. I've done so many things. And these people right here doing these coffees, talking to people, knocking on doors, it will change something, because you guys make the vote. One of you can talk to 10 more people out there. So these do matter, and we need to have more of these. And that's all I'm going to say with that, because I'm going to respect people's time, and I know we have things to do, and I need you to get out there and talk to your neighbors. I need you, after this forum, to get information from every single one of these. Don't just come and listen. I apologize if you did not get to speak, but these candidates here will be the ones that can answer any of your questions, and they will meet you at your homes. I've talked to every single one of these people, and they will meet you at your homes. So, candidates, could you please give us a 2-minute closing statement?
I just want to say thank you. Is this on? Thank you. All right, just want to say thank you again so much for your time today. A couple closing remarks. One of the things that I want to be really clear about, and we've done a lot of these forums, we may not agree about everything, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to tell you when there's something that I disagree with you about. I'm not going to change my opinion or my position based on which forum we're in or which audience I'm talking to. So I want to be really clear about that one point. So tell me what you, and don't, that's the only thing I ask of you, don't ever tell me what you think I want to hear. I want you to tell me the truth about what you feel and then educate me so that I can have a broader understanding. I'd encourage you to look at our endorsements and verify our endorsements. They're all posted on our web pages. I'm really proud to have the Sierra Club endorsement, the Democratic County endorsement, the Democratic Women of Monterey County's endorsement, and a dozens of others. A few issues that we didn't get a chance to talk about today, but that are absolutely fundamentally critical to this position and this role in the county. Fiscal responsibility. The county has a $1.5 billion budget, and we have limited discretionary funds that we can spend. So when we sit here and we promise you how we're going to spend those discretionary funds, someone's got to make sure that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, our county is in strong fiscal shape so that when my son starts voting and inherits this county, we're not leaving him with a disaster of fiscal mess. So for me, that's top priority. Healthcare, the county has tremendous responsibilities for the provision of healthcare. 70% of our moms who give birth are on Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal is administered by the county. The prenatal doctors are from the county. Natividad Hospital is a county hospital. Climate change and vulnerability assessments and the county's responsibility in planning for that is absolutely fundamental. The issue of water didn't come up today, but we cannot have a conversation about anything without talking about water. And then public safety. A huge portion of the county's discretionary budget is spent on public safety departments, and there's so much more to talk about there. So I encourage you to reach out to me. Information's up here. My cell phone number is listed. Call me. We'll talk. Thank you.
I usually have a prepared statement for a closing statement, but today I decided that I wouldn't do that. I just wanted to speak from my heart. We've heard a lot of information today. This is an information age. Information is readily available. We have a candidate who is an insider, who has all of the information that many of us are not privy to, especially myself. And I say that because information is available, and we can all educate ourselves, but in being a supervisor, I think it requires more than just having the information, because even these forums are contrived. Information is solicited from us, we're given questions, and it's not how we would perform, for lack of a better word, in a board situation. In a board situation, information is provided to the supervisor, and then you deliberate, you collaborate, you dig out, research more information to make a better decision. And I think for myself, I know that I have what it takes to be the supervisor you need, because I have the experience, I have the wisdom that's required to apply the knowledge that is available. We can make all kinds of promises about what we're going to do, which is what I have declared I would not do. I'm not promising you anything except to work diligently to resolve the issues that come up. I'm a one person on a 5-member board, and I will work diligently to meet the needs of the people, to be the voice of the people in District 4.
One of the reasons why you should consider me on this campaign is because I have a vision. My opponents will tell you what's wrong with the county and how they can fix it. But we need more than that. We need a vision to revitalize Seaside. We need a vision to revitalize Marina. And I'm the candidate with the vision. I've given concrete proposals on how we can improve our area. If you want more of the same, then you should vote for my opponents. But I'm a fresh face in politics. For the last 12 years, Seaside has not been represented with the County of Monterey. We've been ignored. We've been ignored, and it shows. And when you elect me, I'm going to make sure that Seaside is taken care of. My opponents also continue to say that they're going to stand up for the County of Monterey. And I'm going to stand up for District 4. I'm going to make sure that District 4 gets what it needs, because I'm a fighter. And I'm a fighter, and I hope I've portrayed that message today, is that I'm going to be somebody who's going to stand up for the people and stand up against the other supervisors to get the resources here for District 4. Money's being spent in Carmel, money's being spent on the agriculture, but we're being ignored. And that's going to stop with me. So please, when you get to the election on March 3rd, or you get your mail-in ballot, please look at my name and consider a vote for Alex Miller, a new fresh face here in Monterey County.
I want to thank Pastor Murray, Pastor Lusk, I hear you back there. The two of them have been very active at Seaside City Council, and we just want to thank you for showing that civic leadership. Certainly the NAACP, the Democratic Club of the Monterey Peninsula, and the Pastors Alliance. So let's give them a round of applause. Let's thank them. I've got information up here. I would encourage you to sign up, as I think I'm passing around a sign-up sheet. Even if you don't support me, check out my information. This will be a regular update that comes. I'm going to say emphatically and with passion that in a year of campaigning, Seaside, California has been left behind by the current administration. My office will be located here. I will make sure it's accessible. I will hire from Seaside, and it will be a diverse team. With me, you get enthusiasm, hard work, and I do not profess to have all the answers, just like Ms. Chambliss. Trust me, I am learning as I go, and I think we all are. What I can say is this community and our district is no better off than when the base closed. We have failed to solve the same challenges that we faced 25 years ago, and I'm ready to get to work. I'm ready to deliver on housing, to work on water, to work with everybody in the community to address homelessness and to improve job opportunities. I'm not afraid of standing up. I stood up to PG&E to help found Monterey Bay Community Power. I've stood up as a council member to deliver on more affordable housing units in the city of Salinas than any other incorporated city in the county. Deliver on an arts ordinance, an app. I really recommend that you check into what I've done. I haven't been sitting around, and I'm ready to work for the city of Seaside. And just like Ms. Chambliss, I'm no expert, and I do have a higher calling. And those ethics, those beliefs, will ultimately deliver on a better city and more opportunity in the region. Thanks.
Thank you, candidates. Can we give them a round of